In advance of the Bram Stoker Lecture 2025, in the Ringsend Irishtown Community Centre, a painting of Bram by renowned Irish artist Mick O'Dea, donated to the Ringsend Districts Historical Society, was unveiled by the centre manager, Lorraine Barry. It will be permanently displayed in the centre.
So the reason, the reason we celebrate Bram Stoker here in this building is that the Dublin University Boat Club, for which he wrote for, their clubhouse is on this very spot. So when he was rowing, he would have come in to here, and that's why we celebrate Bram. So I have a special guest message.
I am Dacre Stoker, author and great-grandnephew of Bram Stoker, and representing the Stoker family. We are very happy that through the work of the Ringsend and District Historical Society, that Ringsend has found a strong connection to Bram and that you are proud to celebrate it. I just wish that I was there in person so we could all do it together. I'm so pleased that you celebrate his rowing and his acting on the clubhouse stage that led to his love of the theater and his years at the Lyceum. I have visited the boathouse and was very happy to see that my Uncle Bram's connection is permanently recognized with a plaque that was unveiled last year at the Ringsend Irishtown Community Centre, the very site of the Dublin University Clubhouse. So on behalf of the Stoker family, I thank you, and I wish you continued success and onwards to next year.
So, why are we here? We're here to celebrate Bram, this man, Bram Stoker. Abraham Stoker, born in 1847, and most famously wrote Dracula. And Dracula, we got it right, was first published in 1897. He was born here, 15 Marino Crescent in Clontarf. He was a sickly child, unfortunately. He didn't do too well in his early years. He spent much of his time in bed, sick, for the first about 8 or 9 years of his life. And he was educated by his mother, and his mother was quite the storyteller. She was from County Sligo, and she would tell him ghost stories. And this woman is Florence Balcom, and he married Florence Balcom. And this is from the Bram Stoker estate. This is a painting of Florence, written by her boyfriend at the time, or drawn by her boyfriend at the time, Oscar Wilde at the time, Oscar Wilde. So she was going out with Oscar Wilde first, before she dropped him for Bram, and she married Bram. She married Bram in 1878 in St. Anne's Church in Dawson Street. If you go in there, you see a plaque on the wall dedicated to Abraham Stoker and Florence Balcom. For much of it is Henry Irving. He was a very famous Shakespearean actor across England. He had come to Dublin and Bram met him, and they became lifelong friends. In fact, Bram became his manager, and also when Irving opened up the Lyceum Theatre, he also became the manager of the Lyceum Theatre. This was after he moved to Monday. He moved to London just 3 months. In 1879, he moved to London to live in a house in Chelsea. This is the Lyceum. And they went on to have one son, Noel Thornley Stoker, and that is the two men's resting place in London. This was the first performance of what was known as Dracula the Undead at the Royal Lyceum Theatre. It got royal approval in 1901. So Florence, his wife, was born in 1858. She was born in Cornwall. She married Bram in December 1878. Was James Balcom. He was a British soldier. He served in the South Down Militia. He came to Dublin. He was born in Kilkenny. That's his actually military record from the South Down Light Infantry. Born in Kilkenny. But when he left the army, he moved to Clontarf, to No. 1 Marino Crescent. And Bram was born in 15 Marino Crescent, so he would have known the Balcom family well. He became secretary to the Clontarf Township, which was similar to the Rathmines Township or the Pembroke Township, sort of self-governing, self-regulating parts of the city. He was the secretary, and you can see his office at 1 Marino Crescent. he seemingly from all newspaper reports was very popular as a secretary. He was also part of the secretary of the Clontarf Baths and Assembly Rooms Company Limited, if that was possible. James Balcom himself died in 1892, leaving his estate to his wife Philippa, and Philippa died in 1894. But their daughter had married Bram Stoker and moved to London at this stage. This is the census record, again from the family estate. Bram Stoker. It says barrister at law. He never actually qualified as that. He said himself that he got his BA in mathematics. So I think it was just, and he never practiced law, never practiced mathematics. In fact, when he went to London, he became immediately the manager at the Lyceum. He began writing, and this was one of his first big breaks. He wrote a big article on another famous writer, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And between the two of them, have the most portrayed fictional characters in the world. And of course, Dracula, who has been portrayed on screen 678 times. He has appeared in comics and other books, but that wasn't included in that question. And of course, Arthur Conan Doyle's great man was Sherlock Holmes. I was trying to work out how important imagery was to Bram Stoker when he was writing Dracula, or even thinking about writing Dracula. Here are two cartoons from exactly the same year, 1885. On the left, you'll see the National League, which would have been big at the time in Ireland, who's been attacked by a bat, British rule. So, this evil bat is attacking this poor Irish girl who's trying to defend her country. On the right-hand side, the League is actually the bat, and the poor woman lying down is the Irish nation. So again, this was in paper, so bats were a metaphor for evil. And again, Bram would have picked up on that because he was very widely read. And again, trying to figure out, his thought process for Dracula, how important it was. Here's an article from 1866. He believed that the poor of St. Mark's Parish and Ringsend had peculiar claims upon the sympathies and serious of the members and students of Trinity College. The University Boat Club at the Ringsend brought the members of it into constant communication with the poor of that locality, and whether it was for a coal fund, a famine fund, or any similar object, the students did their duty by the poor to their utmost ability. So when he was coming down and the students were coming down here, building, well, not this building, but what stood here, they would have been passing through Ringsend, and Ringsend was very poor. Now this is from the Trinity Archives, and this is how Bram's mother wrote about cholera, a cholera epidemic in Sligo. And she wrote about how it was treated and how people were ostracised because they had cholera. And one of the ways, especially in down the west and the poorer parts of Ireland, if someone was discovered to have cholera, they didn't want it to spread. So what they used to do was bury them alive to try and stop the spread of cholera. These were the stories that mother was telling to Bram while he was sick at home. Again, everything was percolating in his head. Again, here we are talking about the members of Neptune Club, which was another rowing club along Ringsend, along the River Dodder, again for helping the people who had suffered from cholera. So he would have been coming in contact with, he'd already heard these stories from his mother, and he would have come down into Ringsend and seen the effects of cholera. And there was a massive cholera epidemic in this area in 1860. What number was Dracula's home? It was number 1. In what year was it published? 1897. Who is this actor playing Dracula? Well done. True or false? Morgan Freeman has played Dracula? True. And according to the Guinness Book of World Records, how many times? 678. 678. So this is what Bram Stoker wrote when you think about Ringsend. Love can only be made in perfection beside the sea. Words of Bram Stoker. He went to Trinity College, studied for an MA and a BA. While he was at Trinity College, he actually took a job in Dublin Castle, following in his father's footsteps. His father was a clerk in Dublin Castle, so he was able to get his son in. So not only was he studying and going to college, he was actually working in what was known as the Petty Sessions Office. So the Petty Sessions Office was where they would take all the records from the courts around the country, they would send them up to Dublin Castle, and he would enter into the ledger. And the first ever book that he published was The Duties of the Clerks of the Petty Sessions. So he published that while he was working up in Dublin Castle, and was used as a template for anybody who was working in the Petty Sessions right up until the Irish Free State. Bram's Headingtons, and so at the time, starting on your left is Kildare Street. That's where he was living. The family moved from Marino, Clontarf, to that's the house there in Kildare Street. So he made his way to Ringsend, across the bridge, right up Torncastle Street, where this is the original church. This is the church before it was rebuilt as it is today. Opened in 1857, rebuilt in the early 1900s by Canon Mooney. And that's the original plans. It was vacant lot in 1856, and that's part of the lease agreement when it was handed over to the Catholic Church. And then he would make his way down Torncastle Street. Anybody knows, I don't know if this works, that building just there, that's the original yacht pub. Before it was moved up across the road, it was Egan's and then it became the yacht, but that was the original yacht pub. So you would, and down then to the boat club, which is where you are today. So again, huge amount of boats on the River Liffey, on the River Dodder, got to go out on the Liffey. Bram Stoker wrote afterwards, when he was rowing for the boat club here, he would row in the flotsam and jetsam and dead rats of the River Liffey. Beautiful sight. So you had numerous clubs along it. Commercial Court, you had Commercial Rowing Club, you had Dolphin, there was Neptune as well, and the top arrow is where this building is today. So these are some of the old photographs of river. That one's actually commercial. So this is a longer looking down towards, again, if you notice, this is a photograph is taken, St. Patrick's Church hasn't been rebuilt at this stage, so there's no spire. And the chimneys in the background are belonging to glass making companies. So the Dublin University Boat Club rowed from here. This is a photograph I got. This is of the Dublin University Boat Club at the time that Bram Stoker would be rowing. But this is the boat club there. So this is where they would have rowed. This is the building where they would have rowed from. So newspaper reports of him rowing. Down here at the bottom, the winning boats were in the final was Kennedy Stoker, who was the Stoke, Callan the Cox, Wright, Barrington, and Richards. So he was actually quite talented. He would row in 4s and 8s, is what he was rowing. Here's another one, him again, there towards the bottom. Again, Kennedy, Stoker, Wright, and Harrington. And again, different crew, he's still rowing. Latouche, the coxswain on that one, that's the Latouche banking family. If anybody ever crossed Portobello Bridge at the Portobello pub, that's they'd have a big banking family here. And that was around the family that went to school with Bram. Now, not long when Bram left and he headed off to London, his brother, William, also continued to row for here. William went on to study in the Royal College of Surgeons and became a well-known doctor. And not long was he rower. he was on the Historical Society, which I think is quite apt that we're here. And this is a picture of him at the Historical Society. That's Bram there, taken in 1872. Now he's also not alone a good rower. He was a really, really good athlete, especially for the walking race, which was over 2 miles. Normally 2 mile circuits of the sports ground at Trinity College. There he is, Abraham Stoker. Now H.W.D. Dunlop was also there running with him. He has another connection to this area, Henry Dunlop. The year after that, in 1869. Dunlop went to Trinity College authorities, the provost, and asked them for some extra space, part of the sports area to be actually dedicated to running and an athletics track, and the university refused. So he went looking for another place up an athletics track and a tennis club, and he bought, he leased a couple of acres of land at Lansdowne Road, and that's where the stadium is today. So it was Henry Dunlop set it up. €65 per annum he took it from the Pembroke estate. It was another 3 or 4 years before a rugby team actually played there. It was originally for athletics and tennis. And because of tennis, this is Frank Stoker, a cousin of Bram, who utilised the tennis courts at Lansdowne Road and was twice Wimbledon champion. Bram had finished with his sports Trinity. He had to find another outlet. So he decided he'd start working as an author or writer. So he started writing for this man, Sheridan Lafano. He was a publisher. He also owned a newspaper here in Dublin called the Dublin Evening Mail. And he employed Stoker as a theatre critic. Now, the importance about the two of them having a connection is that Lafano is recognised as one of the world's first Gothic horror writers, and produced this book, Carmilla, about a female vampire, which was published way before, but Stoker reviewed it in his newspaper. So he already had, again, all these things are percolating into eventually Dracula. And then he became involved with Henry Irving. Henry Irving had visited Dublin. He was acting on the theatre, at the time it was called the Theatre Royal, down on Pearse Street. And after the show was over, Irving invited them all back to the Shelbourne Hotel for drinks and food. And the only person in the last coursing distance was Abraham Stoker. And the two of them became really good friends. And eventually he persuaded Stoker to move to London to take over this new theatre he was buying called the Lyceum. Why would he go to involve himself in acting in the Lyceum? Because not alone here in the clubhouse were they rowing from out here, but they also had a theatre inside in it, which they used to kind of fundraise for the club. And on stage was Bram. So he's recognised in several things. In this particular production, he took the part of Nephill Crocker. He was also in a play called School of Scandal. And he was recognised as quite a good actor. And in most of the reviews of the shows that were put on him here, well, they were quite dismissive of either the plot, the staging. Bram Stoker always got great reviews. He was always the part, he should have been in a better part. Again, you can see he's in these great plays, and he's again being recognised as quite a good actor. So he already had his love of theatre before Irving arrived. School of Scandal was written by this man, another Dubliner, called Butler Sheridan, Richard Brimswood Butler Sheridan. Again, a connection to this area. He used to live on just over the bridge here on Ringsend Road for a time. But he was well known as quite a popular and well-known writer of his day. But I have to state that it was of his day. I tried to read some of the plays he wrote. It was of its day. Again, this is another one that Bram was in called Dearest Mama, a comedy actor. He had him for everything. He was able to sing. He was able to be in comedy. He was in serious plays. He was in versions of Hamlet that was put on in here. And you can see he's, again, getting great reviews. The cynical Nephill Crocker found an admirable exponent in Mr. Stoker. really, really doing well for himself. And again, he had this love of the theatre. So he was, everything was formulating in his mind. And again, you can see here, the University Boat Club Dramatic Society, where the committee for the year included Abraham Stoker. So he's getting involved in it all. Again, Mr. Stoker was excellent. Again, rave reviews he was getting. So there was no wonder that Henry Irving, because he had this flair for the theatre, it was no wonder that Henry Irving brought him to London. And that brought him into contact with all these great writers in London, obviously, of the time. And this is called The Happy Man by Samuel Lover. Samuel Lover was, he wrote, the reason I show you this, he wrote a really interesting play called LSD, long before the Beatles got to go with it. But that was pounds, shillings and pence from the old money. This is a performance we done here last year by Shay Connolly. The song was written by Samuel Lover and performed in the boat club here by Bram Stoker. So,
that's it. On the 8th day of March, it will some people say that St. Patrick at midnight he foresaw the day, while others declared 'twas the night he was born, and 'twas all a mistake between midnight and morn. For mistakes will occur in a hurry and shock, and some blame the baby and some blame the clock. To all their cross questions, no one would know if the child was too quick or the clock was too slow. The first faction fight in Ireland, they say, was all on account of St. Patrick's birthday. Some fought for the 8th, one of the 9's more would die, and the wings to which or the black. Last both the factions so positively grew, and each kept the birthday so Pat them had to. Till Father will come, shoulders were sin, and no got to birthday except for June. To see why don't be fighting for 8 or for 9, don't be always dividing after sometimes combined. Combine make good noise, 17 is the mark, but let that be the birthday, amen, sure he wasn't the twin, sure our history will show, or at least he's worth any 2 saints that we know. Yeah, we all got blind drunk at the deleted of the list, and we kept up the practice from that day. Kept up the practice from that day.
This man on the bottom right hand corner is Hamilton Dean. When Bram Stoker wrote Dracula, he never really saw the success of it. He died in 1912. Actually, he died the same week as the Titanic sank in April 1912. In 1922, a German film company produced a film called Nosferatu. But they produced the film without the permission of Florence, and she sued them, and she won. And they were told that they had to destroy every copy of the film. Didn't happen. 2 survived, and we can still see them today. But what it meant is she took control of the Bram Stoker estate, and she started to make money and to license it. And the first person she licensed to was this man, Hamilton Dean. And Hamilton Dean came from Marino Crescent in Clontarf. And you can credit Hamilton Dean. He first put it on in 1924. He first put on the play Dracula the Undead. And he's credited as the man. In Bram Stoker's original book, Dracula, there was no cloak, but he's credited with creating the cloak. He wanted to make the stage production a bit more elaborate. It was also a ruse that when he disappeared in a trapdoor in the floor, the cape would just go up in the air and he would drop. And it was a ruse to do with that. But he's the reason we know Dracula today is having the cloak. I always love this 6 degrees of separation. So this is from a newspaper article, and it's really about the time of Charles Bianconi, and he was the first man to create mass transport in Ireland with horse and carriages. But at the bottom you see the clubhouse in Ringsend, the rowing club. So how do I go from Ringsend to the Globe? So the Dublin University Boat Club goes here, bottom of the page. Mr. Bianconi created travel. This is Mr. Bianconi here. So he had loads of horses. So he needed someone to come and look after his horses. As an original Italian, he didn't fancy any of the Irish people. So he went to Italy and he brought over an Italian to look after his horses. And the Italian's name was Giuseppe Marconi. And Giuseppe Marconi, this is him here, he married Annie Jemison of the Jemison distilling family. And this is her with her son, and her son became Guglielmo Marconi. So all sort of one page, 6 degrees of separation. How Irish was Dracula? Hard to know. And I brought up with Douglas Appleyard last year. So I used to be a tour guide, and I'd take tours down along Dawson Street, and I'd point out St. Anne's Church where Bram Stoker got married. And I was brought up with the idea that the name Dracula, because someone says it's Vlad the Impaler, but I was always told the Irish word for bad blood is Dracula. Dracula. Arno Dracula. And I'm going to finish the recording. One of the first ever times that, only a brief recording, it's only about 30 seconds. It's a recording of Orson Welles. One of the first times Dracula was performed on the radio in the United States, performed on NBC radio. And he performed it, he produced it. He was all over it like everything else he ever done. And of course, Orson Welles' connection with Dublin, his first ever acting gig was at the Gate Theatre.
We're starting off tonight with the best story of its kind ever written. You will find it in every representative library of classic English narratives. It is Bram Stoker's Dracula. The next time I speak to you, I am Dr. Arthur Seward. George Goulouris plays Jonathan Harker, and Martin Gable plays Dr. Van Helsing. It is Dr. Seward who tells the story, and so for the moment, goodbye, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you in Transylvania.
And that's it, folks. Thank you all for coming. I hope you enjoyed it. Key things I'd like to point out before I finish. First of all, the winner is, I'm guessing, Maura Walsh Media. Yeah, you won. Only one to get all 5 right. Secondly, before anybody goes, and if you don't take a photograph, you should be shot. Have a look at the beautiful cake. Oh, yeah. Brilliant. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Hope you've enjoyed it.